Stay tuned till the end of this video to hear about my weekly payouts. This was not a good day for me trading, and I made a lot of mistakes, starting pretty early.
Order filled.
I'm trying to go long in NASDAQ, but I accidentally enter in a contract for gold.
Order filled.
I'm really embarrassed that I made that mistake, especially if you saw day one's video, and by the end of this edit, I am going to link my DOM to my charts.
Order filled.
Here I finally go long into the NASDAQ, and this is honestly a horrible entry point for several reasons. One reason is that I'm not really trading at the cloud here. Now, it doesn't really seem like it's too far away from the cloud. However, on a 1 hour chart, that small difference between where I enter and where the cloud starts at that time on one contract is like a $500 difference. I really need to pinpoint those entries because that is the best way for me to mitigate risk while trading this strategy. Secondly, I'm going long at a point of resistance, which really isn't part of my strategy. This trade takes a really long time to complete, and I spend most of the time deep in the red. So we'll see how this plays out, and I'll slow things down a few times to show how I reacted and what I was thinking and how I got out of this horrible trade. One thing I do is set a buy order at a much more favorable location. Still might be a little bit too high in price for an entry, but it's certainly a better entry point than where I started. As of now, I'm risking just over $2,000 on this trade with one contract. However, if that second order fills, that risk is going to skyrocket upwards, and I've got to admit that this is just atrocious risk for this trade. I moved that buy order even lower to a better entry point to try and mitigate some of that risk. Throughout this trade, I'm really indecisive. I end up taking away the buy order. I end up putting it back. The entire time I don't know if I should stay in or go out. You can see how price comes very close to reaching that second buy order from a much more favorable location. Had I actually gotten in there, this could have been a pretty profitable trade. I'm seeing where these support and resistance levels are being respected, and I'm really just hoping that this trend continues in NASDAQ and we keep going on a bull run. But if you were trading this last Friday, you know that never really happens. At this point, I'm really starting to notice how poorly I've managed risk in this trade, and I moved that buy order to essentially the best possible entry point for this trade. This is really where I should have started this trade, setting my profit targets for different levels of the cloud. The main reason that I hadn't entered into the trade at this point in the beginning was that I wasn't at my screen when this price had reached these levels. This is really starting to look like the kind of trade that would give me big losses, and I really didn't want to blow up the entire account, so I was trying to mitigate as much risk as I possibly could. And the whole time that this trade is going, I'm even considering closing out the trade and just taking the loss. Even if I lose $1,000, the account would still be at over $155,000, more than enough to trade successfully with manageable risk. And for some stupid reason, I make another mistake and raise that second buy order to a much higher entry point. I do see this area as an area of support. However, as far as risk goes, this was not the entry point to make, and it eventually does get filled.
Order filled. Order filled.
And another stupid mistake. I enter in for one more contract at a really bad position. Honestly, this position wouldn't be so bad of an entry point if I hadn't made those first two entries, or if this was at a later time in the day. Now I'm risking more and more, and I'm not feeling good about this trade at all, and really hoping that I don't take about 75% of the account with me on this trade. I end up switching from the 1 hour to the 30-minute chart, and I do see that price has essentially tested the lowest levels of the cloud on the 30-minute chart. So this is something that I like to see, with the hopes that price will be returning to the upper portion of this cloud. However, like I've said, higher time frames are more reliable than lower time frames more consistently.
Order filled.
And I enter in for one more contract at that lowest portion of the 30-minute cloud. I don't see this entry point as a mistake because it is clearly a level of support. You can see that from the previous range right before this spike above the cloud just a few hours before. The mistake here is the risk. I'm risking way too much in this trade, and this could end up taking out a grand total of around $4,900, it looks like. But at this point, I'm not really looking for a trade that would make me massive profits. I'm really just looking to close this trade somewhere towards break even and honestly get out of it as quickly as I can. I'm really hoping that this previous level of support is respected, and it's not. You can see how close we come to my stop loss. I'm committed to not moving my stop loss anymore. However, I'm really worried for this trade. I'm really fortunate at this point that bulls are starting to take over, and I move my profit target to just make a little bit above break even, so that way I can get out of this trade as quickly as possible.
Order filled.
I am very fortunate that we get out of this trade on the plus side, end up making $190.56 on the trade. But by all accounts, this was a horrible trade. Mostly due to a lack of patience, a lack of discipline, and a lack of risk management. Now I do place another buy order at the bottom of this 30-minute cloud, which I find to be a much more disciplined trade at a really good entry point.
Order filled.
So you can see from the 30-minute chart and the 1 hour chart that this is a much better entry point in terms of where it's positioned on the cloud. This trade is honestly the only trade that I would consider being good throughout the entire day that I made. Price is at a clear level of support. It is testing the cloud on the 30-minute time frame. It is reaching a very long horizontal line of the cloud on the lower end of the hour chart. And you can see here that price pretty quickly starts to go the way that I'm hoping.
Order filled.
Closing out that trade was just a matter of see profit, take profit. I wasn't entirely confident that price would reach my profit target, and I'm honestly not sure that it ever did. So in a matter of about 2 minutes, We close that trade out and bring our total to the day to $547.76. I do place a buy order at that level of support, thinking that we might be trading in a range and I can make some more similar trades to that last one. However, things go a bit differently and the lack of discipline continues. On to the next trade. I switch over to gold because I see that it is just ripping to the downside, and I'm hoping that maybe I could get a part of this trend. You can actually see here how it perfectly tests the cloud on that lower end, and that would have been my entry point.
Order filled.
I shouldn't have thought to get into this trend after I had missed it. Things do go my way for a short period of time,
Order filled.
but I closed the trade with about $30 of profit because I recognize how bad it is. I checked my statistics at this point, and one of the things that I was curious about was that trade win rate. Up until this point, we had been rocking a 100% trade win rate, and that is something that ended on day 5. We actually lost it on that NASDAQ trade with one of the contracts. I honestly kind of see it as a good thing because now it's something that I don't really have to worry about. I really enjoyed seeing it, however, it's not something that's going to factor into my decision making anymore. At this point, I'm thinking maybe I should just end trading for the day. $574.52 is a respectable amount for any day. It would bring me that much closer to my 9,000 goal of profit. But I get greedy and I want to pass this combine today if I can.
Order filled.
Here I am entering one more long contract of the NASDAQ at the lowest point of the 30-minute cloud. It's really not a bad entry point at all, but I should have taken into consideration how strong this bear trend has been, and in hindsight, I should have walked away when I was up $573 on the day. I moved my stop loss to a point where I could end the day with some profit, even if I still lose this trade. And just a few moments later, that's exactly what happens.
Order filled.
That's our first real losing trade on the combine, with a loss of about $430 on that one trade. This has honestly been a really bad trading day for me. I've made a lot of mistakes. I did have that one good trade in my view. However, I cannot consider this a good day in trading. And even though I've made a lot of mistakes and I keep telling myself that I should just finish, I'm not done making mistakes, and I enter in for one more stupid trade.
Order filled.
I enter in for one more long contract on the NASDAQ. Honestly, this is not the worst entry point in the world. It is at a level of support. However, with the way I've been trading for the day, this really was a mistake. Price pretty much immediately goes against me, and I end up risking close to $1,000 on this trade. If I lost that much money on this trade, I would be very unhappy with myself for making such stupid mistakes in this day.
Order filled.
As price goes back above my entry point, I close out the trade and lock out. I am really fortunate that I end this day in the green. It might just be $138.92, but it could have been a lot worse. Even though I made a ton of mistakes on day 5, there is some positive to be seen, and that is that I can learn from these mistakes and learn to be more disciplined and patient with my strategy. So here are our totals for the day. We made $138.92 in profit, bringing our grand total to $6,640.92. We are inching closer to our goal of 9,000. We've lost that 100% trade win rate, sitting at 91.67%. And here are our totals for the week. I'm still really happy with our final total for the week and staying pretty positive that every day this week has finished in the green. I want to be really open and honest and transparent in this channel, and that's why I'm showing you my bad days as well. As promised, let me show you some of my real profits that I've made from my weekly payouts in Topstep in my XFA. So here we're looking at my XFA, and we can see I have a total profit of $10,000.16. However, if you take a look at my balance, I only have $3,300.66. That's because I've taken 2 payouts on this account, $3,000 each week. Across 2 XFAs, that has been a total of $12,000 this month for me. In all honesty, I actually did blow up my other XFA. It wasn't because of my strategy, it was because of poor discipline and poor execution. And most of all, poor risk management. Even still, with that XFA, I only spent $300 to go through the combine and activate it, and took out over $6,000. So it's definitely a win. As I've mentioned in a previous video, I'm really looking to make $6,000 fairly quickly in my XFAs. Once I do that, I take out half the account, and then I just keep trying to get the account back to $6,000 so I can take out half. Once I get close to that $6,000 mark, I really stop worrying about making larger profits, and I just focus on completing those 5 days of winning at least $200 to complete that consistency rule to make payouts. And I've been really fortunate that over the past 2 weeks, we've only been in the green. I do want to mention that I never copy trade to different accounts. So all the trades I make in separate accounts are all completely individual to each other. If you've made it this far, I can't thank you enough. I really can't believe all the awesome feedback I've been getting on this channel recently. And I can't believe that we've already have over 60 subscribers. That may not seem like a lot to many people, but to me it means the world. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you're having a great weekend.